our latest Zoom meeting with our very special guest, Alex Sanchez, for the Florida Bankers Association. He's going to give us an update on the CARES Act and allow our viewers and participants to ask some questions about the financial status of our business community, of the bankers that he serves, obviously, in the state, and give us some real critical information on that important subject as we continue to reopen Florida and move business forward. Before we do that, though, I want to turn the program over to the Chamber's Sophia Lopez, who will give you some housekeeping on how we're going to manage this Zoom in the next hour. Sophia?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. I'm the events administrator at the Chamber. We will be recording this entire presentation, so it'll be available on our YouTube playlist later this evening. I'll send an email to everyone afterwards so you have access to that. We will also be taking questions, so please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click that, you'll be able to submit your questions that way, and I believe Troy will be monitoring those questions and will ask them at the appropriate times. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Now I'd like to give a proper introduction for Alex Sanchez. He's got a very long and distinguished bio. And so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's some important things for you to know about Alex. As I mentioned, he serves as the president and CEO of the Florida Bankers Association, the FBA, which, by the way, was founded in 1888. It's located in our state's capital in Tallahassee. And the FBA is the leading voice for the Florida banking industry. Alex's responsibilities include representing and advocating for Florida's banking industry before all legislative regulatory bodies in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C. Before joining the FBA, Alex was an attorney at Sinclair Lewis down in our part of the state in Miami. And prior to that, he served as senior corporate attorney for GTE Information Services in Tampa. In early 2002, President George W. Bush nominated Alex as one of only 3 presidential appointees on the 5-person Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board. Later that year in November, the United States Senate officially confirmed Alex to serve on that board through a very thorough vetting process. The Thrift Savings Plan contains over $400 billion on behalf of nearly 4 million government and military personnel. And then in April of 2007, President Bush nominated Alex to serve a second 4-year term to the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board. In August of 2006, Governor Jeb Bush nominated Alex to the Florida Schools of Excellence Commission, where he served for a year. And then in October 2007, Alex began serving on the board of directors of Bankers Insurance Group, where he served on the compliance, audit, and claims committees. Alex received his BS degree cum laude from Troy State University, great school name, and his JD from the University of Iowa College of Law. He's also a military veteran, having served in the United States Air Force for 5 years. Alex, thank you for serving our country. He's a graduate of class number 14 of the Leadership Florida program and a board member of Florida Tax Watch. Alex has appeared as a regular guest on the Mornings with Maria, hosted by Maria Bartiromo, the Fox Business News Network, CNBC's Closing Bell Show, and Bloomberg TV and Radio. He's married to his lovely wife, Patsy, and he's got 2 daughters, Christina and Carolina. And so with that, let me turn this program over to Alex Sanchez. Alex, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Troy, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be with you, and I really appreciate being able to see you again. And I wish it was in person.
Yeah. Soon enough.
I know. This is great. I love this Zoom. And good afternoon to South Florida. You know, that's probably where I spend most of my time is in South Florida. I mean, you know, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. We got so many banks down there. It really is the economic engine of Florida. We have 22 million Floridians in 67 counties, and 7 million of those 21 or 22 live in the Tri-County area of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. So it's a very, very important area of our state. It's a very beautiful area. So many exciting things happening down there. I know they've kind of, you know, are in a hiatus, I understand right now, but I can't wait until Virgin America trains begin again between Dade and Palm Beach County, and then on the way to Orlando, and then eventually on its way to Tampa, which they're petitioning already the State Department of Transportation. And then down the road, they're going to build it from Orlando to Jacksonville. So I think that will be a major, major, it's already a game changer. Obviously, this COVID-19 has derailed us, no pun intended here, for a little bit. But I think that's a major game changer to transportation in our state. And I don't know if anybody's written it, but God, it was great, and it was clean, it was good. Hopefully, you know, prices will come down with time. But to drive between Dade and Palm Beach County, wow, what a easy go that is. And as people continue moving to our state, let me just comment on that, Troy, before I get into you know, the CARES Act, and also the reopening of Florida, having the honor of serving on Governor DeSantis's executive committee task force. You know, people are going to continue moving to Florida. It's amazing. I don't have the latest data, but before the crisis, you know, began earlier this year, we had 900 to 1,000 people moving to Florida each and every day because they were tired of the Northeast. They were tired of the high tax states, especially in the Northeast, but in the Midwest as well. And they were coming down here. And you know, so I think Florida's economy is strong, and was strong then, will get stronger as the months go by. And people wanted to come down. It's not just for the sunshine and the beaches anymore. Florida is much more than that. Families are living here. Our population's getting younger. Governor DeSantis has given us great leadership, and making Florida a very livable and desirable place. You know, the Carl Icahns of the world moved their offices from New York down here. People are tired of the taxes in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and they're leaving in flocks. And now, unfortunately, you know, for them, this COVID-19 is not helping either. So Florida, I think, has a very, very bright future. I think South Florida has a very bright future. And Troy, so you guys are doing a super duper job at the chamber there, and promoting our state, and enticing good paying employers to come down and set up shop here in our state to employ Floridians. And so I'm excited about that. I think, Troy, I think our future is very bright in Florida. So I guess you want me to just continue, right, Troy?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Gotcha. So let me start off with the CARES Act. Obviously, you know, the situation our country got in, you know, with this COVID-19 as it spread, and you know, basically our economy shut down. So President Trump, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, and our own Senator Marco Rubio really led the way for us. And this CARES Act was created, and then the Paycheck Protection Program, part of the CARES Act, was written by our own Senator Marco Rubio, supported by our other Senator, Rick Scott, our former governor. We really appreciate what they've done. And the CARES Act was meant to be a bridge to get small businesses through this pandemic to the other side, to where we are now, which is in the governor's step-by-step reopening of Florida. We're in phase 1 right now. So as small businesses start opening, you know, I hope they applied for funding, which, you know, a great portion of that is forgivable for your the 8 weeks of February and March of the salaries of your employees. It was meant to keep those employees employed, keep having people getting paid their salaries, again, to keep the economy afloat and going while we were temporarily closed. And if you have not applied, I urge every small business owner in Southern Palm Beach County who may be listening in on this, please go to the nearest FDIC bank and apply. It's a 2-page application. It's very easy to do. You'll have confirmation in 48 hours that you got your loan. There's still $100 billion left in the fund, in the what we call a PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, round 2. So let me pause there. And in round 1, the president, the secretary, our Senator Marco Rubio, Congress on a bipartisan basis passed this legislation. And round 1 had about $420 billion in the fund, which was used up basically in about 7 days. Our banks, I can tell you, worked around the clock to process those PPP loans. And in fact, I'm happy to report to you that in round 1, Florida was 3rd in the nation in the number of approved loans, and 3rd in the nation as well in approved dollars, with about $18 billion that was sent back to Florida to help small businesses. So we were very, very happy about that. About 80,000 loans for small businesses in round 1. And then, and again, about 18 billion in dollars in round 1. Now we're in round 2. And Congress and the president signed into law round 2 of the CARES Act. And the numbers are amazing. Over 230,000 loans in round 2. Florida is 2nd in the nation behind California in the number of approved loans. And we were 4th in the nation in approved dollars, slightly behind New York, even though we had 8,000 more loans for 8,000 more small businesses in Florida than New York. But of course, their cost of living is much higher up there. So their loan amounts, while there were less loans, they were a higher amount because of the cost of living. So combined, and I have the combined numbers now that the Small Business Administration just came out with as of earlier this week. And again, remember, there's still $100 billion left in the fund in round 2 from the 320. Combine what we did in round 1 and up to this point in round 2, I'm happy to report to you that Florida is number 3 in the nation now, with 325,845 loans for that amount of small businesses in Florida. And the average loan amount is $76,000. $76,000. So that's why everyone listening on this call, whether you're, a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, or you own a small business, you should apply. You should apply because this was meant to help you get through this pandemic crisis. It was nothing that you did wrong. It was something that impacted us all as a nation, and in fact, as a globe. So Florida in total has brought back $30.3 billion to help small businesses in our state. And isn't that amazing? Isn't that great? And again, I thank our bankers who it kicked off on Friday, April 3rd, the processing of these PPP loans. That weekend, the bankers worked around the clock. The following weekend was Easter weekend, a holiday weekend for many of us, but our bankers were working 24/7 around the clock, processing loans before the fund was depleted to help small business owners in our state. Because as you can see, we're in competition with the 49 other states. So as I look at some of the other states represented here, that are pretty big. I'm really, quite frankly, surprised at the low number of approved loans and the low number of approved dollars under this program that they achieved. It's like, wow. And Florida just, as the third largest populated state, we stayed consistent with that ranking in population in this program. And I'm very happy about that because, my goal and the goal of our industry was, let's get those dollars back to Florida to help small businesses. Other states deserve it too. I'm not saying that, but I want to make sure that, so we did about 37 webinars with a lot of business owners. Our most recent one was in Western Broward with a chamber there, Troy. And I'm really, really proud. I worked with the city commissioner there, Denise Grant, who's fantastic. And originally she said, Alex, I'd like to get, 25 to 30 loans for small businesses in my constituency. And I said, Denise, let's do it. If we can do more, let's do more. And happy to report that as of yesterday, over 150 African-American small businesses had applied for the PPP loans in the Lauderhill area of Western Broward. So that's just one example of the outreach we've tried to do. And I was so happy for Commissioner Grant. She did a fantastic job with her constituency and getting the word out. And that's been the problem sometimes, getting the word out. Has it been easy? Are the regulations easy for our industry, the FDIC banking world? No, quite frankly, but I'm not here to whine and complain to you. Our bankers will tell you that getting onto the Small Business Administration portals to upload loans, it was a pain in the neck. It really was. But you know what? We did it because our purpose was a higher purpose, and that was to help the economy of our state and that of small business owners, which, as you know, Troy, is the heart and soul of Florida's economy, and in fact, our nation's economy. 50% of Americans work for small businesses. Look, we all love large businesses. We love, big employers. They're great. We need those in our economy. But small businesses is the bread and butter of our nation's economy. And that's why they're so essential in our economy. And I credit Senator Rubio, the president, the Treasury Secretary, and members of Congress on a bipartisan basis who voted for this legislation. So that's where we are there with the CARES Act. And there's still a trickling of loans coming in round two. And I got to confess to everyone, in this round two with 320 billion, and it started, I think it was April 16th. Many of us thought the funds would be depleted in 72 hours, but it has not. So I think that it's just a question of getting the word out to great folks like you, that you should apply. If you're eligible, if you're a business less than 500 employees, again, this was meant to help you. Now, is it ever easy dealing with the government? No, it's never easy, right? I mean, but we can get through this, and we are getting through this. And I encourage, Troy, all your members and your great organization to apply if they're eligible. And so that's where we are with the Paycheck Protection Program. On the reopening of Florida, I served on the governor's task force on his executive committee. And I got to tell you, we met with the governor every day for hours upon hours. And he was very, very involved, very methodical. Just giving you a little bit of the inside, the Beltway, how it worked. He was very data driven, met with the best medical professions in our state, traveled around the state to meet with doctors and the best medical teams to get their opinions about reopening Florida in a safe, step-by-step, secure way. Met with business leaders. The president of Disney Florida was on this committee. I think the president of FP&L for Florida was on there. Our our largest utility company. And they will all tell you, as I'm telling you, the governor was very involved, very methodical, was a calm hand. The lieutenant governor was very involved as well. And the governor was very data driven, and showed incredibly great leadership in a very difficult decision, because as you've seen in other states, if you open too quickly, and then you'll be criticized because, you don't care about our safety, this and that. And then if you don't open at all, you got these small business owners and, people, we all need to work. We all have financial obligations to our families. And so you're going to get the criticism that, hey, I can't work. I'm going to lose my home. 30 million Americans are unemployed. We got to get this economy going. So it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. And I will tell you, as someone who was on the governor's task force, which is why I said, I think he met that test. He showed great leadership in balancing all the interests, and very concerned about Florida and Florida families, also concerned about the economy. And I think his phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 is the way to go, while continuing to closely monitor the medical data, Troy. So here we are, phase 1 now. And I know Palm Beach was opened up last week, and then Miami-Dade and Broward late last week. So now the entire state is under phase 1. And at his news conference where he opened up, where he, disclosed his plan, the governor said that he hoped that the difference between phases was more of weeks than months. But again, that will, depend on the data and how we're doing in the state of Florida. There's testing going on everywhere. Thousands upon thousands of Floridians have been tested, free tests, a lot of organizations, different stadiums. I think you have the list there. And so, look, we've got to, our hospitals are in great shape. I think the governor showed, again, it's sad what happened in nursing homes in New York. And, I'm my mom's 89-year-old caretaker. She lives, I built a house for her on my property. But I feel for all those, our seniors who are in nursing homes in states like New York, where they kept putting people in there with COVID-19 infections. It was like, you got to be kidding me. And yet in Florida, the data is proven to be, we're much more secure with our seniors, who are our heroes. And again, a shout out to all the medical hospitals around our great state. We all know, like after 9/11 with the firefighters and the police officers, these men and women who work at hospitals are, along with the firefighters and the police officers and other first responders, are also our heroes now too. They've done a fantastic job. So I'm looking forward to phase 2. I was in a beach in St. Petersburg this past weekend, and really proud to see there by the Don Cesar Hotel, that part of Pinellas County. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Department was everywhere in sight. A lot of areas roped off, and you had to access the beach here or there. And but really, I was proud of our tourists, and I was proud of our residents. Everybody maintained social distancing, and everybody had a great time. It was fun being out there. People were walking while respecting the social distancing. I'm proud of our restaurants who now have reopened under phase 1. And have limitations, obviously, on indoor seatings. But you know what they've done? They've petitioned the cities, and the cities have cooperated. And kudos to those cities who made it happen. Changed the code maybe temporarily to allow more outdoor seating, where the seats could be socially distanced positioned, and so restaurants could have more patrons visit their establishments. So once again, the free enterprise system is so creative in thinking of ways to open up the businesses, but yet keep us safe during this COVID-19 pandemic. So the response has been there. I was in a bicycle store in Tampa 2 weeks ago, and I love the way the owner was taking 2 customers in at a time. Everyone else was in a line outside that small business, 6 feet apart with their bikes, because everybody's riding bike today, aren't they? Everybody's fixing their bike. And my wife and I are riding all the time. And so as one customer left that small business, another one was allowed in. And that small business was back and booming and doing business. So it was good to see that. It was really good to see that. And it shows that we can do it in a safe and prudent way to be safe, but yet have our businesses open, our small businesses open. So, Publix has been great. The Publix supermarket has been great. President of Publix was on that task force as well. I feel confident going in. They're cleaning the carts, and so our state is responding. Our state is responding, and I'm confident that our state and our country will come back stronger than ever on this. We will have all the machinery we need, all the masks we need. I wrote an op-ed, Troy, that was published on Fox News that, the supply chain, because I'm a member of the Exim Bank, which is very important, as you know, to South Florida for job creation. Many small businesses in South Florida use the Exim Bank to finance exports to go around the world from, the great ports that we have in South Florida and our airports as well. And so I wrote an op-ed that the supply chain really needs to be moved out of China. We can't have 80% of our pharmaceuticals, Troy, come from China. There's no way. Are you kidding me? No, we can't do that. Our masks, our gloves, we were getting those from China as well. Our respirators as well. And so that is changing now in our country, as I hope other strategic, important products are now manufactured here in America or in one of our allied countries where, we don't receive a threat that they're shutting off the exportation of a certain product or a certain ingredient that we need for pharmaceutical drugs because, China just decides it's not in their best interest to allow that at that moment. So we've got, our world is changing. And that's why I think we've got to come out of this stronger and smarter. And I feel that our country will, our state will. And so Troy, I'd love to take some comments and some questions from your chamber members. And I hope my talk this afternoon is helpful to everyone. But I feel confident. I'm bullish on Florida. I'm confident in Florida as the 3rd largest state. We're going to continue to grow. I guess my last comment to expand on the population change, after tax reform in 2017, where you can only deduct $10,000 in property taxes or the local or state income taxes that you pay on your federal tax returns, I think a lot of people just got fed up in living in these states where there's never enough taxes you pay. It's just more and more and more. We want more from you. And people got fed up, and they're moving to states like Florida, to states like Tennessee, to states like Texas, and you're seeing huge population growths in those states, as well as a few others. On a political side, I want you to know that Florida, in the next round of after this year's census, we will probably gain 2 more congressional seats to add to the 27 that we currently have right now. So we will have 29 House members after the next census, plus, of course, our 2 U.S. senators. So Florida's influence in Washington will just continue to grow as a state. So Troy, I'd love to take some questions now. Thank you.
All right, Alex, thank you very much. Here we go. We're going to get my video started. I'm going to be right with you. There we go.
There you go.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you very much. That was excellent information, I think that our viewers and participants certainly needed to know. A lot to take in here, and there are some questions coming through now. I can see them. I'd like to respond just to a couple things. I agree, Alex. I think that, the safe, smart, step-by-step approach that the governor's laid out, it has proven so far to be the right approach to reopening our state. This is a very tricky, delicate balance, as you know, and no governor got to pull a little playbook off the shelf and say, here's how we do it, right? But I think our state has done it the right way, and we've certainly supported that approach. You're right on. I'd also like to add that certainly our restaurants and businesses down here have also taken a very responsible approach to their reopen as well. And I too have a lot of pride for those that are going above and beyond in many times. The suggested protocols to ensure that the consumer feels safe when they come into that restaurant or that retail store or that fitness center, whatever it may be.
Right.
And so I think given that proper leadership that we've had, it's been great. Pivoting a little bit to the PPP, some of the best information we heard was that there's still $100 billion left.
Yes.
I think you're right. Maybe we're not communicating that enough, but that's still, at a $76,000 roughly average loan amount, that $100 billion can still help a lot of businesses. And so we will encourage our small businesses who have not yet applied. I mean, if you're not eligible, you're not eligible, certainly. But if you just haven't for whatever reason, get it done. I think that's extremely important.
That's right, Troy. That's right.
Yeah.
And if you need any help there, Troy, you let me know. And our FDIC banks I will notify them in South Florida, and I did that for that example I gave you in Lauderdale Hill. And I know our banks have been, are strong in Palm Beach County, very strong. And have played a major role there. But yeah, I mean, I think the Harvard University example of them getting, $9 million. Are you kidding me? It was an embarrassment. I don't know who processed that loan and why they even applied. The largest endowed university in the world. Come on, give me a break. Let's get that to Main Street, to small business owners in Main Street. And they returned the money right away because in the people's court, it was a major embarrassment that they even got that. So let's help small businesses here in Main Street, Florida. Yeah,
totally agree. Thanks. All right, so there's some questions coming up, Alex, and let's get right to them.
Okay, sure.
I know everyone's excited to have you on this call. So the first one comes in, and it said, how would a sole proprietor with no formal payroll system prove documentation of PPP loan distributions from a business account to a personal account as payroll? Would a PDF of the bank transfer be fine?
My banking expert who knows this stuff in and out, usually is my sidekick on all these. He's not here today, but to that person who asked, go to your FDIC bank, look, at 2:00 when this ends, and yes, just you'll be able to show proof because you have to, because you file a tax return, right? And that will be sufficient to get that, to complete that 2-page application for your PPP loan. So to that sole proprietor, please go and get your Paycheck Protection Program loan because you probably have needed it because you've probably been home the last 2 months.
Right. Another question comes in, Alex, that says, what security issues have arisen due to customers having to wear masks?
Good question, Troy. The governor did not require masks, suggested wearing masks. If anyone comes to it, I presume that question means towards our banks.
To the banks, yeah.
Yes. So obviously, we don't want people coming. We had a campaign a few years ago, no sunglasses, no hats. You don't go into a bank with sunglasses and hats on, right. For obvious reasons, because we've got security cameras everywhere at every angle. Mm-hmm. To catch the bad person, and so, we would ask people to please use your discretion and good judgment and good common sense. So if you do that, our bankers will politely ask you, can you please just lower your mask, at least temporarily, because we're going to catch you on camera to get a full photograph of you, and just in case if any bad person comes in. So we haven't had any problems. I think there's been common sense on both sides of that aisle, and we have faith that that will continue.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that we'd be dealing with customers coming into a bank with a mask on?
Right, I know.
It could be an N95 mask. It could be a bandana mask.
Right.
And
right.
that stirs up all sorts of concern, perhaps.
Exactly. And really for other businesses too. So, just use good judgment. And so I think we're going to get through that, Troy.
Yeah. On the other side of it, Alex, on the banking employee side, again, there's no mandates that are coming down from the governor. Is the FBA encouraging the employees of the banks to wear masks during the hours?
Good question. Great question, Troy, because look, banks have been open since the COVID-19 crisis began. We hold the people's money in our banks. We've been open for business. And so we have a double duty here to our customers, to the public, and to our employees and our staff. So we want to see both to be safe. So we've taken, cleanliness measures. We scrape down and clean up bank branches every day. Our employees are wearing masks, gloves, and other, things to need. We're wiping things down because we want to protect the public and our customers. So, the banks have been open. It could be by, appointment. It could be by, online. But the bottom line is you do have access, depending on what your needs are, to your bank and to your money.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, Alex, to the next question, which talks about virtual payments. I can see, Alex, that you're frozen on my screen. I don't know if you can still hear me, though. Okay, so we've got, for those of you with us, it looks like our guest speaker might be having a connection issue, as he's frozen in time, at least to us here. And so we're going to give him a minute to come back online. We've still got a number of questions in the queue. Hopefully he resumes his connection. We're gonna give him a minute to do that. You can continue to think of questions. I'm going to answer one here in the box that comes from one of our participants that talks about the CARES Act money that Palm Beach County got for our small businesses. About $261 million came into Palm Beach County. They have carved out, the county have carved out $60 million of that for a business loan program. Oh, Alex.
Yeah, I lost you guys.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, you're back. Great. Okay, I'll get back to answering that question.
We go. Sure. There we go. I don't know what happened.
It was a good segue. You mentioned that question. It was perfect about the mask and security and such.
Sure.
There was another one that talked about, given now the new way of life, do you see more virtual payments, more virtual relationships with banks than ever moving forward?
Our banks, I got to tell you, whether you're talking about your local community bank down the street or our larger banks or our regional banks, technology has gotten to the point where it's affordable now for all members of our industry. And banks are like a tech company that just happen to have FDIC insurance to hold and protect your money. Because since Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the FDIC Act into law in 1933, not one red cent has ever been lost in an FDIC bank account that's insured up to $250,000 today. So it's the safest place in the world to leave your money. So
Hmm. Uh-oh. All right, Alex has paused on us on again.
Uh, I,
Oh,
yeah,
there he
there
is.
you go. Having said that, I think that look, this may be a new world. I mean, uh, you know, I certainly do. I'm sort of old school, new school. I get online and do a lot of my banking services, but I also go to the branch every once in a while. So, you know, it just depends on where I am and what my needs are on that day. But I think on a broader basis, this is a very, very pertinent question, Troy, not only to the banking industry, but to the retail industry, to many others in our society. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, I think we want to get out of the house and we want to shop, but
Mhm.
are we going to shop in a store where we're wall to wall, carpet to carpet in people? I don't know.
Right.
You know, so are we just going to get online and order the book or the pool supplies? I mean, I don't know. So I think it's going to be a changing world.
All right, we got another pause. Looks like Alex might be just having some connection issues. So until he reconnects, I'm going to go back to the question about.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, we got you. There you are.
You got me there? I could hear you, but so Troy, when I was watching Maria Barantaromo's show this morning, and Target reported their numbers, Lowe's reported their numbers. They were extremely good. Their stocks were doing very, very well, but their .com business was knocking it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
So to your question, on a broader basis,
Yeah.
that may be something our entire economy will have to face more and more online, I think. But we'll see. We'll just have to see.
And then maybe bringing it down a notch. What about now customers in restaurants or retailers now paying via technology, not handing over a card and getting it back, being able to pay virtually from the table or from the counter? Where do you see that going?
Well, I think, you know, that could be a brand new world that's probably welcomed by all of us.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll be a good thing. But I think people are still going to want to go out, Troy. I think restaurants in our great state, we have so many. You have so many in South Florida that are great places. You know, families want to go out. Remember back in the day when Blockbuster was around? And we all thought, oh my God, they're going to run the movie theaters out of business. Well, people wanted to go out. They didn't want to just stay home. Yeah, sure, we watch movies at home. I do that. You do that. But we want to go out and experience that. So as soon as it's safe to do so, Americans will return back to the movie theaters and go to restaurants, and as we're doing today, May 20th. I'm confident on that.
A question about the PPP, Alex. So it says, do you have any current information regarding PPP and the forgiveness requirements? And that I've heard rumors that the time to spend the loans may be extended. Will employer-paid health insurance be considered an acceptable use of the funds? So kind of multiple. We'll start with the first one, and that's any update on the forgiveness requirements? And
yes, you know, I got to tell you, the Small Business Administration, I have a double-edged sword for me here, Troy. You know, considering that the CARES Act went into effect April 3rd, the president signed it in late March, it's remarkable. And they used the SBA as the conduit to lend this money out. So let me tell you what that really means. So the SBA lent out $23 billion last year. In 1 year, in 12 months. That's their apparatus. This year, and they worked with the banks to do that. This year, in 6 weeks, they're being asked to lend out $600 billion. So considering that, not to be too critical of them, they've done a hell of a job. But on the other side, I will tell you, there are times that you feel like they're building the airplane while at 50,000 feet above sea level. I mean, you know, and so we're waiting for the forgiveness guidance to come out.
Mhm.
Somewhat 11-page guidance came out on that just the other day. We're trying to sniff our way through all that, but hopefully they'll have a more simplified version coming out, because, you know, promises made, Troy, promises kept. They promised small businesses to verify to our banks that they had a need, and that about 80% of these loans would be forgiven.
Right.
To help them get through this COVID-19. So that better not drastically change. I can tell you that.
Good. And then I don't know if we're still waiting on this, but the health insurance piece, would that be an acceptable or a forgivable place to?
You know, I go through all the guidelines that I have here, all the, but again, my expert bankers will be able to tell you that in a nanosecond when you go to one of our FDIC banks and sit down with your trusted advisor. Which I encourage. Look, there's 100 billion left, but it's, we're burning more than $1 billion a day. And so the money at some point will be depleted. I urge all your members, Troy, to go this afternoon, go tomorrow, and start this process.
Yeah. There's a question here about sort of the banking industry in general.
Right.
What type of short-term or long-term sort of broader changes do you see in the industry due to this pandemic?
Troy, we have the strongest. I teach at the business school in Wales, in the UK, our greatest ally. And, European banks are oh my God, they couldn't even tie the shoelaces of American banks. I mean, the American banking system truly is the strongest in the world. And don't be fooled by looking at the top 50 banks globally, and you see the Chinese banks are the top 5. The problem with the Chinese banks, they're huge, they're massive. But with China, you don't know where the bank ends and the government begins.
Mm.
You don't know where, and the government is the one providing the capital and making up for bad loans, because, somebody had to satisfy a Communist Party chief in the Wuhan province, and that Chinese bank made the loan.
All right. Okay. So we got another pause with Alex. It sounds like he can hear us, but he's pausing on our screen. So hopefully he'll come back like he has. It just takes a minute to reconnect. There he is.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So Troy, our Federal Reserve Bank stress tests our largest members under the worst of economic conditions. 18% unemployment, 13% on inflation rates. All sorts of horrific economic models. And the banks were tested in the United States to make sure they had sufficient capital to survive the worst of the worst days. And they passed. Every year they have to go through this, our larger banks. So, and our community banks are well capitalized, as are our regional banks who were stress tested as well. So right. We have the strongest system in the world. We've had mergers and acquisitions, but the consumer in the United States still has a lot of different banks to go to choose from to meet their financial needs.
Another question, interesting here, is handling cash going to become an issue?
From everything I've read medically, no. So I don't think that will be an issue. So unless somebody comes out with some guidance on that, I have not seen that as a medical issue at this point.
Okay, that's good. There's a question in here. I'm just going to read it as it's written. It says, can I get more than the amount I was given with this latest round since I am a small business for PPP? So I'm assuming this business got PPP and they're asking, can they get more? All right. And so Alex, I know that you can hear us, but you froze again.
Oh,
Oh, there you go. I hear you.
is that good?
Yeah, you're still frozen, but we can hear you.
You
So
can hear me?
yeah,
There you go.
You're back live. Did you hear the
All right.
question? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah. Look, unless, not to joke about this, but unless you didn't ask for the whole enchilada on your first go around, and you feel like, well, I only asked, and then sure, go ahead and go back. But, you know, you probably got everything you were entitled to. Why wouldn't you have applied in round one under everything you went? But if you were not, if you felt like you didn't ask for everything, and then yeah, sure, go ahead and apply to make sure that you get what you were entitled to get.
All right. So I see that this person has given some follow-up information. We'll probably have to take it offline. It says he wasn't given the full 10,000. That number makes me think about the EIDL grant 10,000. So I don't know if it's PPP, but you answered the question. If you didn't get the full, then go get the full.
Right.
If that's what it is. If this question's related to the EIDL grant of 10,000, that's a different conversation. And I know that's not. You could probably answer it. It's not necessarily your specialty. It's an SBA issue.
Right.
With the 10,000. When the SBA came out, as you know, they were going to give a $10,000 grant. It then changed to $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. So they changed that. So hopefully that would answer that question to that caller.
And by the way, Troy, it's my understanding that the first 6 months payments, if it becomes a loan.
All right, so we continue to have some challenges with Alex, but he's been coming back really quick. So, and again, I know he can hear us.
You know what's happening, Troy? We have a thunderstorm here in Tallahassee. That's got to be it.
It's got to be it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, actually, I'm hearing it now outside our office. I think we're both experiencing, so I don't know whose end it's on, but we've got a few more minutes left. Let's see if we, and by the way, that participant did come in and say it was PPP. So I think he got the answer that he needed to go in and try to get the full amount that he's entitled to the process. This question relates a little bit to unemployment, Alex, and it says, what can a business do to get their employees back when the employee refuses, since they make more money on unemployment due to the Fed's extra $600 a week? Many small businesses are concerned, especially with PPP forgiveness being top of mind.
You know what? Secretary Mnuchin spoke about that yesterday, Troy, that people who are unemployed, and I don't know how the intricacies work at the state or federal level, but if you are offered a job and you don't accept it, and then you will be denied benefits. That's what the secretary said. Again, I'm not an expert in that area, but look, maybe I'm just a naive person, Troy, but look,
all right, I'm gonna, while Alex is taking another pause, I want to finish my answer, and I know he can hear me, about the county. Someone had asked earlier about the County CARES Act.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Alex, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, Troy, I've been unemployed, and again, I'm not an unemployment expert here, and I was unemployed, and had a family to support, and it was a tough time when I was looking for a job. And I got to tell you, Troy, who wants to? I never applied for unemployment, and believe me, I saw my bank account go down every month, and it was getting down to the pennies there. Thank God, I found employment. But maybe I'm naive, Troy, but who wants to sit at home and collect a check from the government? We all want to work. It's in our human spirit to give and to return, to use our talents in whatever way we've been chosen to give. And so, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm naivete, as they say, on this issue. But I would hope people would say, no, I'm going back to work. I'm tired of watching Oprah reruns here at home and all day. Let me go back and be useful and productive again.
Yeah, I agree. I know it's a concern of the business community, and I hope I hope it'll work. It'll certainly work itself out, you know,
Sure.
in the short term.
Sure.
So, Alex, we just got a few minutes left. Let me end with a question.
Yeah.
That's this next piece of legislation coming down from Congress. Obviously, the House passed the HEROES Act.
Right.
You know, there's some, you know, funding in that act.
Yes.
Maybe you could, from the House side, obviously the liability safe harbor issue is going to be one that we're going to be talking about for a long time on the business side of that. And I think, you know, that's what's the issue probably primarily holding up the next bill that's going to be passed. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. You know, Troy, look, I don't think it's going to pass because the Senate's not going to take it up. You know, our country right now is, you know, we're in a very, you know, I think we have the greatest economy in the world. We had the greatest economy in the world until the pandemic broke out in early March to our country and to the rest of the world. I'm confident it will come back. But we got to be careful too, Troy. I just wrote an op-ed that will be published soon. And so, you know, from President Washington to President Clinton, our national debt, Troy, was $5 trillion. Okay? During the 8 years of President George W. Bush, it went from 5 to slightly over 10. In the 8 years of President Barack Obama, it went from 10 to 21, almost 22. And now we're at 25 because Congress in our country, we have spent $3 trillion on these, you know, enhancing the economy. And we had no choice. We had to, because, you know, I mean, this pandemic froze our country and people's livelihoods were at stake and economic security is at stake as a country. But at some point, Troy, I offer to you and your listeners here, we're in $25 trillion of national debt now. At some point, another Simpson-Bowles commission, which didn't work the first time because of lack of leadership from the highest level. And I'm recommending that our current president at some point appoint the best minds on both sides of the aisle to look at our national debt and how to reduce it, because we've got to pay off that credit card, Troy. At some point, you know, you can't keep going to the supermarket and spending, you know, $50,000 and telling them to add it to your to your tab. Yeah, I mean, you got to pay the piper at some point. So, you know, we've got to be careful what we spend with the defense needs that we have in our country and other needs that we have. So that's just my personal opinion, but I wanted to share that thought with you, Troy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when and if we'll come down from Congress and in the next piece of legislation. So, well, on that, Alex, we've come up to our hour. I knew it would go by quick spending this time with you. I can't thank you enough for hopping on this Zoom. We look forward to the time when we can get you back down here personally and see you and have one of these meetings in person. We can shake hands and look into each other's eyes for real. But Alex, keep up the great work in Tallahassee, and on behalf of all the bankers, we appreciate all that you do and all your support of our chambers and chambers across the state of Florida. So,
well, Troy, let me say this. Thank you for your leadership, Troy. Thanks for everything you do for Southern Palm Beach County, because, you know, chambers of commerce play an essential role. So thank you and your team. And I'm honored that you invited me here today. It was great being with you.
Thank you very much, Alex. We hope to see you again soon.
Okay, you got it. You got it. Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.